Let's sew a scrappy Halloween pillow using a panel. It is going to be so quick and easy and come together so fast. All right, so let's take a look at what we'll be needing for this pillow. You'll want a panel that you like and then some extra fabrics. I'm using mostly fat quarters to put this pillow together. So just have a nice variety. First, I'm going to take one of the fat quarters and I'm going to use this for the back of the pillow, and I'm going to be creating a envelope back to this pillow. I love using this method for pillows that are especially holiday because then you can take the pillow form out and store the pillow cover much easier. So I'm just squaring up this panel and then I'm going to cut it in half to create that envelope. And I'm making sure that when I go and hem two of the edges on this pillow backing, that they are still facing, my words are still facing up, because I want to lay this out on the back of the pillow so that I can see all these fun hocus pocus words and everything like that. So to hem it, I'm just going to fold one of the short ends in 1/4 of an inch twice, and then I will top stitch along that edge. And I'm going to do this on both sides of this fabric that is in the middle here. So let me show you how it looks. So there's the top stitching on that side. You can see it there. So I don't have any raw edges where the envelope backing is going to be, and then on the side here. So now that these panels are done, I'm going to set them to the side, and here is the panel that I'm going to be working around, and I'm going to build out a scrappy border around it. So to start that, I layered my fat quarters that I'm using, and I'm just going to square up two sides of it. So you see I have my selvages all lined up together. I'm trimming those off. And then I'm just going to cut a bunch of different strip widths. So I've been cutting 2, 2.5, and 1.5 inch strips. And then I have a nice variety of them since I had my fat quarters layered. And I'm just going to lay them all out in just a random order. I'm not going to pay too much attention to it because this is scrappy, but the different widths will really make a fun effect on this pillow. Like I said, it's scrappy, so just don't worry about it and have fun. So I'm just going to stack them all up and take them to the sewing machine and sew them together. I am just going to lay them together, right sides together, and sew a 1/4 inch seam and just keep adding the strips on until I have them all sewn onto this strippy fabric set that we're building here. So this goes really, really fast, and especially if you're not worrying about where the colors are all lying and everything, it comes together really fast. And it's a lot of fun and freeing just to sew this together and not worry about it. So I'm going to press the seams and then cut more strips. So I'm squaring this side up again, and then I'm going to cut 4 2-inch strips, and this is because I want them to kind of be the same width this time so that I can border the 4 sides of that panel. So I'm cutting 4 at 2 inches, and keep in mind they are probably going to be longer than the panel, so I'm going to have to seam rip some. So after I get the 4 at 2 inches cut, I'm going to cut 5 at 2.5 inches so that the outer border's a little wider. And I'm cutting more this time because I know I might have to seam rip and add a few of these strips onto my strips later to border the pillow. So once I get these cut, I will be able to start sewing them onto that cute panel we have. So this last one was not quite the right size, so I just went with it anyway, just in case I needed it. So it'll be okay because this is a very, very, just go with the flow type of pillow. So I'm going to lay these out quickly and just kind of see if I'm liking how it looks, make sure, hopefully I do, right? Since I already cut everything. All right, so now that I know I'm going to love how this looks, I am going to start with the top strip and sew it on, kind of doing a log cabin type block. So I'm going to sew that top one on and then work around the panel. Now I can see that I have two little blocks there that I can seam rip off, and I'll rip the two of them off and choosing the side that I want to line up, you know what I mean? So you could cut one block off from the front of the strip or the back of the strip, or two together. I chose to just take two off together. And then I'm going to lay this right sides together on top of the panel and sew a 1/4 inch seam, and then we'll work around the block with the rest of the strip sets. All right, now that it's sewn and pressed, then I can add on the next strip set, and I will be seam ripping one of the blocks off, and then I can see that after it's sewn on, I'll probably have to trim some off later. But first I'm just going to worry about seam ripping one off so I don't have too much of a tail there when I go over to sew. Now keep in mind with this method that I'm doing that's really scrappy, you might have some blocks that lay with the same design that lay together once we put the next row on. So just keep in mind that aspect and make sure you'll be okay with it. All right, so I have the second set sewn on and pressed. So I am going to trim off that little bit of overlay, and I'm going to make sure I have my ruler lined up with the edge of the panel. And I also line up a line on my ruler with the seam to make sure everything is straight. All right, so now I can take the next strip set and decide how I want it to lay here, and I'm going to seam rip off one of the ends. So you can seam rip off a block on either end, just depending on how you think it'll look best. But you know, I think this is a fun way to put a pillow together quickly. It has a really scrappy look to it with all the blocks that are different sizes, and it's a quick way to do this method using fat quarters and just cutting them at different widths. It really just looks like you took some Halloween scraps you had and intricately pieced them all together. All right, so now we can just put the last strip on, and just like that, there is the first border. So now I'm just going to take the wider border and do the same thing, sewing them together. This time though, I may have to add blocks on instead of removing them since we're getting a little bit wider here. But just sew them on the same way. And there we go. I absolutely love how it looks, in those black polka dot with the little pumpkins really pop. So now all we have to do is do that envelope backing. So I'm going to lay them out and make sure that I have them lined up where the words are facing upright, and lay them right sides together onto the pillow front. And you'll want to make sure that that hemmed seam is in the middle, because that's where we're going to flip the pillow after we get the 1/4 inch seam sewn all the way around the border. So I'm going to pin everything in place now that I got it lined up, and notice that you want to make sure the envelope back is overlapping so that when you put the pillow in, you don't see the pillow on the back side. So after I pin everything, I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Now that it's sewn, we can flip the pillow form around and take a look at how it looks all finished. So I'm gonna make sure I push out all of the seams, and especially the corners, so that it lays nice and flat. And I like to, after I push all of the corners out, I kind of like to roll the seam around the edge a little bit and make sure that they are nice and flat. And you could also press it now too if you wanted to, but I really want to see how it looks with the pillow in. So I'm going to grab one of my pillows and stuff it right now, because I feel like it looks so much different after you actually have the pillow in and it lays all nice and flat and beautiful. So let's take a look at it. Oh, my envelope backing was just a little tight, but at least it covers everything. All right, so there is how it looks, and it is absolutely adorable. What do you think? It is a fun way to use up those extra prints that you may have from Halloween that you didn't use in other projects, and just get a fun and quick scrappy pillow to set out for Halloween. And you could really do this with any holiday. I love it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.